Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Will Byington. Welcome back to the latest episode of My Three Things. As I've said, each week I'm going to not only share my three things that are rocking my world, but I'm going to introduce you to celebrities, athletes, musicians, influencers, and all the like, and let them share what three things are changing their world and getting them through these crazy days we're living in. Hopefully, something they say, something they share, turns you on to your next favorite thing. That's my goal, and hopefully we accomplish it. This week, I am thrilled and loving that I can introduce you to one of the best sports writers around that I know, and one of my favorite people in the world as well. Nancy Armour, national columnist for USA Today Sports, writing a little bit of everything. You can find her weekly at www.usatoday.com/sports. She also did a fantastic podcast of her own called Changing the Game, and it's available where almost all podcasts are available. You can also find Nancy on Twitter at NRARMOUR, Nancy Armour on Twitter. So check that out as well. But without further ado, let's get into it and hear Nancy's My Three Things. What's up, Nancy? How are you today?
Good. Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Loving technology and all the things that come with a brand new podcast idea. Let's dive right in. What are three things? What's Nancy Armour's three things that are rocking your world right now?
I am watching Ted Lasso, and full disclosure, I'm watching it for a second time because I loved it so much the first time. I needed joy in my life, and Ted Lasso brings me joy.
It absolutely is. It's one of the most incredible shows, isn't it?
It's wonderful, and I don't even remember the ads that Jason Sudeikis, the promos that they did for NBC's Premier League coverage. I don't even have a recollection of those.
After a few days of practice, players gave me nicknames. Started small, but now they'll chant it at me every now and then. That's pretty nice.
What's the nickname?
Wanker.
Do you know what it means?
I think it just means great. Just like a nice guy, kind heart, someone that listens, someone that'll push you. A wanker is someone that doesn't mind being alone, likes to sit with his thoughts. Well, with any new job, you got to anticipate a learning curve. But I tell you what, I'm in Tottenham, and I'm here to stay. You can guarantee that. 1 second here. Oh, nope, I got fired.
Premier League is on NBC and the NBC Sports Network, live on TV, online, or on the go.
Is there a third kind of football maybe I could look into?
I started watching Ted Lasso. I'm trying to think the first time I watched it, maybe between Christmas and New Year's, and was just immediately hooked. I mean, I love soccer. I love London. I'm a sucker for a good, sappy story. So it met checked all of the boxes.
This is a bit of news from the other side of the Atlantic. AFC Richmond announced the hiring of their new manager, American football coach Ted Lasso.
You're an American who's now in charge of a football club despite possessing very little knowledge of the game.
Oh! I know that AFC Richmond is going to give you everything they got, win or lose.
Or tie.
Right, y'all do ties here. Did you see that? He must be from England, yeah? Wales. Is that another country?
Yes and no.
How many countries are in this country? 4.
Like it or not, Richmond are changing the way we do things. And from now on, that way is the Lasso way.
Hey, look, this car's got an invisible steering wheel.
What you're doing is irresponsible. This club actually means something to this town.
You don't think I see that every day out there on the streets?
Are you kidding me?
I think that's what it's all about. Embracing change.
Champagne!
Being brave.
Your decision to bench Jamie was a masterstroke.
I don't think we're allowed to talk like that at work anymore.
You got no fear of the underdog.
For me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field. I always figured that tea was just going to taste like hot brown water. And you know what? I was right. Yeah, it's horrible. No, thank you.
Welcome to England.
Yeah, it's a great show. You don't even have to like soccer. You don't even have to, know anything about it. But it's just I don't know if you want to say uplifting, but it's just a very much a feel-good story. So I think everybody can use those these days.
It seriously is like your favorite candy. It makes you smile. Season 2, I believe they're filming right now.
They are. In fact, that was, I was reading page 6, sorry. But it mentioned that Jason Sudeikis was over in London filming, and I was like, oh, yes, that means we've got more seasons. Because I think they've re-upped not even just season 2. I think they've re-upped for like seasons 2, 3, and 4. So I'm very excited to see where the story goes. Yeah, it's definitely more than one series.
The music is also very fitting and very good.
Yeah, in fact, there are a couple of new songs that I pulled off of it that I now listen to.
So Ted Lasso, number 1.
Ted Lasso's number 1. I'll just completely nerd out. My number 2 that I'm listening to is a podcast. It's BBC News World Hour.
Hello and welcome to NewsHour. It's coming to you live from the BBC World Service studios in London. I'm Tim Franks.
I started listening to it because I feel like, I mean, you know, journalism is my business, so information is my business, and I read a lot and get news from a bunch of different sources. But one thing I've always felt like that Americans were kind of ignorant, and we can be, because we don't have a whole world like right on our borders. Like we don't have a whole bunch of other countries that we need to worry about. So I started listening to it because I wanted to see what else in the world I'm missing. And as it turns out, it's quite a bit. Like I did not know that farmers in India have been protesting for months now over new laws that are going to, in theory, make it easier for them to sell their goods, but they're actually concerned that it will drive their prices down. Didn't know anything about that. It's given me a lot of information about the coup in Myanmar and the protests there. What else did I learn about? They're building a new railroad in Tanzania because the old one was built over 100 years ago, and the cars are not, they're 100 years old, so they're not in decent shape. And this will actually allow the country to be linked to other countries by rail, which currently they are not, because again, the railroad was built 100 years ago. So those are just like a couple of things that I've learned about that I would have had no idea. And that's as somebody who reads, basically 3 or 4 newspapers a day. And these are stories that I don't hear about. So I listen to that every day.
Given the brutality of the Syrian regime over the last 10 years, the murders, the disappearances, the torture, the imprisonment, the besieging, the barrel bombing, you might think that one former Syrian intelligence officer being sentenced to 4.5 years in prison is but a minuscule act of justice.
I tend to do the big headline, the main story of the day, whether it's a COVID story, protests in Russia because of Alexei Navalny's case, Myanmar, and then they go into other stories that are going on around the world.
You're saying there's more going on in the world than just here?
I know, it's kind of shocking.
And what's number 3? What's your number 3 thing of the moment? My 3 things.
My third thing is I'm reading Erik Larson's The Splendid and the Vile, which is, if you know Erik Larson, he wrote Devil in the White City, which is one of my all-time favorite books.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and so he's historical fiction, and this is about World War II, and it's about, how kind of Churchill went about the war, and it looks at the year, it's 1940 into 1941, so it's before the U.S. got into World War II, and it's kind of interesting because I think I knew that just how opposed the United States was to getting into the war. Like, there's a lot about the book talks about Roosevelt was running for re-election in 1940, and that was a big thing, was that he had to really temper his support for, not even support for getting into the war, but support for Britain, because people in the US were like, we don't want to be involved. We don't want our boys going over there. We don't want to, they've just, World War I was not that long ago. We don't want to get involved in this. So it's just kind of interesting seeing how Churchill navigated that, and what he, kind of the tricks that he played, or the way he wrote things, and kind of the negotiations. So it's interesting. Yes.
That's awesome. See, those are 3 fantastic things that I had not even heard of 2 of them. And Ted Lasso.
And I sound like such a
love.
dork with the last 2,
I
should be listening to fun things.
You know what? Well, that's what you got Ted Lasso for. So you can just watch it 3 more times before season 2 comes out. We're all finding ways to get through these crazy days we're living, and podcast, whether it's news, whether it's historical fiction, is awesome because we all need an escape right now.
Yeah, that is the truth.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your 3 things on the podcast. Thanks so much.
Of course.
Thanks so much for joining us, Nancy. That was fantastic and always excellent to catch up with you. Again, that's Nancy Armour, national columnist for USA Today Sports. I'll put the links below. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to track down myself, Will Byington, at Will Byington, on Twitter, Instagram, all the things, and you can hopefully find those links because I will share it with each episode. It'll also be available on YouTube, and as mentioned, I'll provide the links there. Again, My 3 Things. Thanks so much for joining, and be sure to hashtag My3Things podcast on Twitter and Instagram if you'd like to share your own 3 things. I'd love to hear what's rocking your world as we go through this these days. Thanks so much. See you next time.